What if the last person who saw you alive was someone you trusted with your life? What if the phone in your pocket made it home safely, but you never did? And what if every account of your final hours told a different story, depending on who was doing the talking? Those are the questions haunting one Mississippi family right now. And tonight, I'm going to walk you through evidence most people scrolling past this case have never pieced together. Because I have the actual recordings, the father's own words, the audio that's tearing the internet apart. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why nothing about this story sits right. Before we go any further, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to True Crime Vic, because we cover the cases the headlines abandon, and you don't want to miss what's coming.
Go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. Because I always said safety is in numbers. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that would have been unusual for him to split from the group. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
So that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat. And usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's, I think, since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends. And so it would always just be like, hey, Mom, I'm back, type of thing. But this time there was no call or text from him. It was from his friend.
I just know I've lost my best friend.
This morning, a friend of Nolan Wells, who was with the 18-year-old the day he was last seen alive, is sharing what he says happened during a July 4th boat trip to an isolated barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Trayston Shepard declined to speak with us on camera because he says he and his friends are getting threats.
We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die. Nobody wanted to see his life be taken so short.
Shepard addressed this viral video that investigators have been studying. Wells's parents worried it showed their son involved in a confrontation, but Shepard said that's him, not Wells.
That's the video I'm referring to. That's me yelling.
Shepard says he took a boat back from Horn Island in the late afternoon, but Wells stayed behind with a girl he had met.
They met that day, and it was kind of one of those things. It did come off that day that he really did like her, but that was the only time they'd ever hung out, was at Horn Island on July 4th.
Investigators believe Wells drowned and say there were no immediate signs of foul play. But there is growing frustration in the community, and his parents are skeptical, telling GMA Wells left his phone behind and they tracked it to one of his friends.
It was showing everywhere the phone had been, I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land.
The sheriff said the parents have not turned over the phone to investigators. Their lawyers said they will. While the investigation goes on, Trayston Shepard wants the focus on his friend.
I want everybody just to relax and let everybody mourn the loss of Nolan, and let us remember him as in the sweet guy. I think everybody needs to let the investigation continue and let the facts be shown.
Shepard told us he has spoken to the police, and the sheriff's department said both he and other friends of Wells have been cooperative. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
So, but is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. From the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into the altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, as he was in that altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it. So
describe that. That's kind of interesting. What was that about?
He was just very hostile. He was just really mad. They were just trying to the parents on that boat were trying to get him out.
I'm curious if the police have. I know they said they're still investigating. Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really?
Okay.
Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, I had said my plea, because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunherd, it was whenever, the body was discovered and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking.
Right.
You know, did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me.
Just to gather information.
Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. Like, that's my boy, and I want him to find justice. Like that, like this whole case thing, like whatever, like this whole situation, and none of this adds up to me. So like, it's really hard, like, for like people to just like keep on saying things when like none of it adds up.
Did y'all hear one of Nolan's real friends speaking about what he believes happened? Listen to this.
I know that friend group that he was with is known for, I don't know if I can say this substance, but they're known for doing a certain substance. And, you know, some of us who have spoke to Nolan prior to the island date, we know that they were known for doing that substance. Another thing that we believe is, what if they peer pressured him into doing something? And again, with the mixture of alcohol and...
This is allegedly, y'all. This is allegedly. And Jesus just giving us his synopsis of what he feels. So allegedly, Jesus, you got to remember when you're getting on these panels, you got to say allegedly, because somebody will try to wrap you up.
Allegedly, coming from his friend group that knows him very well. I'm talking about teammates that played with him, went to school with him, and folks that see him every weekend. Allegedly, we believe that maybe something just didn't go the way they wanted it to. Maybe they were trying to have a little bit too much fun, and it was just a mistake that they covered up. But I know for a fact that that friend group that they were with is known for a certain substance. So it does not surprise me whatsoever. And I'm almost certainly confident, allegedly, that there was that substance on that boat. I know we won't know till the body gets tested and all that, but, you know, it's what makes sense to me. I don't believe he tried to swim back to the island or anything like that. There's just a lot of things that doesn't make sense. Why did they leave him in the first place? Why didn't they make sure he had a ride home? If that was me and my friend group that I typically hang out with, I mean, Nolan, yes, was in that, but if it was me and my 4 close friends, I'm not leaving that island until I leave with my friend.
Exactly. Because why the fuck y'all didn't bring him back with y'all? If he went out there with y'all, he should have fucking came back with y'all. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like Nolan has 2 separate friend groups, his black friend group and his white friend group. And it sounds like the 2 friend groups didn't really fuck with each other, but Nolan fucked with both of those friend groups. He said they known to be on that shit, and they probably tried to get Nolan to try that shit. And either 1, he wasn't going for it, and that's why they got to fighting, or 2, he actually tried it and it went bad, and they trying to cover some shit up. But either way, the family is going to get to the bottom of this shit. They're going to do an autopsy, and they're going to find out if there's any substances in his system. They're going to find out if there was any blunt force trauma and exactly what the cause of death was. So regardless of if these motherfuckers is telling the truth or not, the truth is going to come out.
Y'all, this one right here got people talking. A former Mississippi judge, somebody who spent years in that courtroom, decided to speak out on the Nolan Wells case, and he ain't holding back. He breaking down what he thinks really happened out there on Horn Island, and he naming who he believes should be sitting in a jail cell right now. Now look, we ain't saying his word is law, this his opinion, but when somebody with that kind of background start talking, people listen. Watch this.
I've worn the robe, the black robe, and I've presided over these trials or preliminary hearings, arraignments, and initial appearances. Let's get started. So what do we know? We know, after watching the parents' interview and reviewing tons of footage from social media, recounting interviews and statements of alleged witnesses that were on Horn Island, we know that Nolan Wells went to spend the night on July the 3rd with his so-called friends. And he went with those so-called friends to Horn Island on a boat on July the 4th. We know that out of the 4 people on that boat, 1 did not return home. That one person was Nolan Wells. The other 3 returned home as normal and said nothing to any member of law enforcement or to the Coast Guard until at least 11 p.m. at night on July the 4th. We know that at least one of the so-called friends was found with the phone of Nolan Wells. And we know this based on the testimony of the parents, specifically the mother, who tracked the phone and was led to the home of one of the young men where she retrieved the phone. We also know that based on the mother's testimony that there were no Snapchats from the day, which was very odd for her son. We also know that text messages were deleted. We know that when she was tracking the phone, Life 360 said the phone was one place and Snapchat said it was another place. We know that the boy that had the phone did not voluntarily turn it over or call first. He had to be found through their own investigation. We know that based on witnesses' account, the so-called friends were seen on July the 5th, that Sunday, having breakfast together like nothing had happened. They were not out there searching for their so-called friend. We know that the so-called friends deleted their social media, deactivated their accounts, and scrubbed it clean if the allegations are correct. We know that the young man that had the car at his house did not willingly turn over the keys. At first he said that he did not have the keys. He didn't know where they were. Then he, after being pressed by the father, he finally turned over the keys. This is all very suspicious activity. We know that based on an audio recording and some video that Nolan Wells can be heard saying, "Give me my freaking keys." Excuse me, "Give me my freaking phone." And there's been 2 different versions. Some say he said, "Give me my freaking phone," or some say he said, "Give me my MF phone." Regardless, he was asking or demanding his phone. Someone had his phone who did not have permission to have his phone. So the first thing I see, the simplest thing I see, is who had his phone and why? And was that theft of the phone? Sometimes we look at the largest case, we try to get to murder, but the person that took his phone committed a crime right there. There are witnesses to who took that phone. If an affidavit is signed, an arrest warrant could be signed by a judge in Mississippi to go after that person that had that phone unlawfully. We know, based on his own words, Nolan Wells' words while he was alive, he did not give whoever had that phone permission to have that phone. So was that theft? I think if an affidavit is signed, if it was presented to me when I was a judge, I would have signed an arrest warrant for the person for theft of that phone, based on what I've heard. It'd have to be an affidavit format, but if it was presented to me in affidavit format from law enforcement, I would sign the arrest warrant for, at least at this point, theft of the man's phone. We know who had it. We know who didn't report it to the family. The family had to go find it, and we know that Nolan Wells said give it back to him, and evidently it was not given back to him. Why was that?
Hold up. Y'all heard that. A former judge standing on his name, saying somebody need to be held accountable. Now let's get back to the people who've been living this nightmare every single day. Elmore Wansley, Nolan's father, he got more to say. And after hearing what that judge just laid out, I think you gon' understand exactly where his mind's been at. Let's get back to it.
And then too, really didn't worry a lot about it because, it was his last weekend to have fun because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, you know, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last little hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about football, not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, and you have to understand, and you have to understand both at the same time.
And we know, Ben, that you said that you're going to do an independent investigation.
Yes.
And you say you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they tracked this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Tashima and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her two sons, Jalen and Javon, they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. He was like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Tashima went and picked it up.
It wasn't like they said we got his phone, they tracked it. And that highlights all these contradictions, Michael. The fact that they said Nolan was talking to a young woman and she said that he said, I'm going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys said that he said he was going to stay with her. And so that's an obvious contradiction. And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing? And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe their story, I'm gonna stay behind and I'm gonna leave my phone. I mean, no young person leaves their cell phone. And so then there's so many things their parents were telling us about. Even why didn't his body wash up with the tide on Sunday? Why would it come on Monday? It's not adding up. And that is the problem when you think about the history of Mississippi.
Yeah, so there are so many questions that need to be answered. And is there anything you'd like people to know about Nolan? What would you like them to know about your son?
No, it's okay. Nolan, take your time. Nolan was very loving. He was liked by all. It was not a friend that he couldn't make.
No, we'll be right back with more for the parents of Nolan Wells and attorney Ben Crump. We're back now on GMA with the parents of Nolan Wells, Christina and Elmore Wansley. And I want you to please continue to tell us what you want the world to know about your son.
So Nolan was just like this bright light, right? Walk into a room, his smile, his energy was just so infectious. It's almost like he drew you into him. And he was just one of those people, he always wanted everyone to be included. He didn't want anyone to feel left out. I remember one of his teachers emailing us. I can't remember what grade he was in, but basically it was math class. They had a special needs student and she asked a question and Nolan got everyone to put their hands down because he wanted that student to answer. And so student answers the question and she was like, Christine, the classroom, Nolan went crazy and everyone else started going crazy, just celebrating that child, making them feel included. And that was the person he was. He loved everyone. And I always told Nolan, you have to be careful when you have such a big heart like that. I love that God blessed you with that, but you have to be careful with that because, that it's not always returned, that type of love. But he was just genuinely a good person. I always say, all the best parts of me are with him.
And Dad, anything else you want to add?
It's just, he's gonna be really missed. I know a lot of his teammates, they all look to him as a leader. He's more like a silent leader. Not real big on words, more action, which is kind of like I was. I really wasn't real big on talking. I really wanted to show you, and you follow me, and people follow him. And it's gravitated. He put in the work, he worked hard, and he knew he was focused on what he wanted. And he wanted to make life better for, his family. He wanted to have his own family. He used to say, Dad, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to build this. I said, well, son, you got to take it one step at a time. Slow down, let's walk this thing out. Let's train, let's sign our deals, let's make these teams, make these camps, put the work in, and everything else will work out. Even his baby brother, their bond got even stronger, because now I have a big brother that he's finna do something, so now I want to outdo that. So his focus and his confidence has got even better. So I was looking forward to both of them having outstanding years.
He seemed like he inspired in the home, and he inspired outside of the home. And Attorney Crump, where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, the deleted messages that Christina was going to briefly touch on, we want to get the phone and figure that out.
Backtrack on that. When we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps, like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like, there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's suspicious,
Michael, we having an independent autopsy done at the behest of his family. Colin Kaepernick helped pay for the independent autopsy. We flew his body up from Mississippi to D.C. because they wanted an autopsy done by a person with no interaction with the Mississippi law enforcement, because there's an issue of trust here that is really important. And the fact that they keep trying to say, suggesting it was a drowning, but nobody out there reported him drowning. It's not adding up, Michael Strahan. It is not adding up.
And honestly, we are doing this because at the end of the day, I would hope any parent would fight for their kids to find out if anything happened, what did happen. So we just want honesty and transparency. We want a thorough investigation. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else, and that's it. We just want answers.
Well, we really appreciate all of you being here. We hope you get the answers that you deserve to have, and we hope you get the closure that you need. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
What you about to see come from TikTok, and we ain't got no confirmation this is fact. No official word backing it up, but it's circulating. People talking about it online. So we gon' show it to y'all and let you form your own opinion. Here it is. More folks saying Nolan friends deactivated their social media accounts.
These are Nolan Wells' friends that didn't remember anything, but they remembered to deactivate every single social media account that they have. Them, his girlfriend, their parents, all the accounts deactivated and wiped clean. All of them. Jax, Eric, Wyatt, Warren, Morgan, jail. Jail for everyone. Because they're already circling the wagons. They're already lawyered up. But wait, their parents are doctors, lawyers, and judges. This is the father of one of his friends. And this is the stepmama, Ashley Cole. Court judge for Jackson, George, and Greene counties in the beautiful state of Mississippi has already deactivated her account. Deactivated all the accounts, and they have all unfollowed Nolan. And this is Katie, who is either a friend, close friend, or girlfriend, who is supposedly, allegedly cooperating with authorities because all the other friends are lawyered up and circling the wagons and not helpful and not talking. The doctors and the lawyers and the judges' parents of these 5 have said that they would like privacy, please, at this time. But you know what? Name them publicly. No privacy and no peace for Eli, also known as Jax, Eric, Wyatt, Warren, and Morgan. What happened to Nolan? What did you do to Nolan? His phone came back safe, but he didn't? Why were y'all arguing just minutes before he was reported missing? And y'all were continuing to party late into the evening. Other boats that were docked.
But joining me now are Nolan's parents, Christine and Elmer Wansley. Christine, Elmer, we appreciate your strength tonight. We've seen peaceful protest and solidarity with you and your family, and I know from spending time with you, you're not activists, you're not interested in being on TV, but you want what is right for your son. And we've seen members of your community, people that knew Nolan, speak to what kind of young man he was. And we've seen people like Tyler Perry and Colin Kaepernick and Byron Allen and thousands of others donate to various financial needs you have right now. Christine, have you been able to take anything from that goodwill as you go through this?
It's one of those situations where it warms my heart, right? Like it warms my heart, but also my heart is still very broken. But to see that people are so willing to assist us, help us in any way that they can, I'm so appreciative. And I've always said, even in my post on social media, like, hey, if you cannot donate to the GoFundMe, which I understand because financially times are hard for people, just send us some prayers. That's the biggest thing. Just send us some prayers. At this point, we're willing to accept any help whatsoever, but it has just been such a blessing. And I am just so grateful to everyone who, whether they've donated, sent up prayers, DoorDash orders, just all of that. We're just incredibly grateful to everybody.
And you, Elma, have you been able to take any solace from the support you and Christine have received?
Yes, it's a very good feeling just to see all the love that my son had from the community and his friends. So people always will come in and say, "Oh, your son is a great guy." Individual here and there, but to actually see that he really touched a lot of people during his time here. And it's just a great feeling to know how much of a people person he was. Nolan was really a people person and could light up a room with his personality and his character. So he would truly be missed.
Now, between social media and some interviews I've seen with parents in Jackson County, Black America has responded emotionally to this tragedy, both what you're going through and the circumstances surrounding Nolan's death. Some have echoed your admitted lack of trust or concern in aspects of the Mississippi law enforcement to investigate in good faith. So, Christine, along with the concern that race may or may not have played a role in what happened beforehand, do you think investigators feel the pressure that is happening so they'll take this seriously?
That's the hope, because the concern is when it first happened, right? It was kind of straight out the gate, like, hey, this is what we're thinking, but yet there's been no full investigation. At that point, investigation, I don't even think had started. And so to come out publicly and state that, that's kind of where and the concern for how's this investigation going to go? Once again, I have said it in pretty much every single interview. I've stated it on my personal social media. The only thing we're asking for is just a thorough, honest, clean investigation. We just want to know what happened to our son. Like, I think that, again, any parent in America, or even just any person, if your loved one goes missing, you want to know what has happened.
Christine, both you and your husband have talked about how gregarious Nolan was, how much he enjoyed people and seemed to value accord. You said in Friday's press conference that he was not how you wanted the world to meet your son.
What else do you want us to know about him?
He was God-fearing. He had faith. Again, God took his time with him. He was rare. You don't meet too many people like him, especially in the day and time that we live in, who is just so full of joy and light and really just wants everyone to come together. And it's very disheartening, the discourse, the comments on social media, like the lack of empathy, and that people are taking our pain and this situation as a joke, and just us simply asking, like, what happened has triggered so many people, which is crazy because, again, especially if you're someone who has children, you would want to know. But he was a light. Like, he was just walk into a room and just his personality would get in the room before he would. He just wanted everyone to be happy. That was his biggest thing. He just wanted everyone to be happy.
Elma, it struck me as we spent time in my office at National Action Network talking that you are not activists, you were not looking for a cause, but the fact that he was not there, he was missing. Then all of a sudden his cell phone and his keys are somewhere that they had not voluntarily brought back to you, and law enforcement was saying there was no foul play. You were just operating as parents. That's why you'd reach out or you would talk to someone like Ben Crump and later me. You were not looking for a cause, but things just didn't add up, you were saying, Elma.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. Like my wife said, the day that it happened, she prayed that the right people will be put in our lives to help us with this. And he answered our prayers. Ben Crump got in contact with us, and his team has really helped us move this along. I really believe if we didn't have him, I don't know where this investigation would be.
Yeah, and to the support of our friends who have assisted with so many things. We have like our own almost like a little crisis team. They have been phenomenal in making sure that we're getting, the information out, making sure, we're set up with meetings. And then like Elmore said, it really has been a godsend. And at that juncture, once again, I think anybody would accept any help. We were literally asking for any help. We were desperate.
Yeah. And I might add, you said you want everybody that will come out to be peaceful. You said, make sure y'all keep emphasizing peaceful. And many of the ones that came out today were white. This is not that only one side has responded, but everybody's saying this just does not add up. We want to see justice here.
That is it. Like, that is the bottom line. People can make whatever assumptions they want, but when it comes down to it, we would give all the money back. We would give the gifts, everything that everyone has done for us. We would give that all back just to have him back.
Yes.
I'll have to leave it there. Thank you for giving us this. And this is the first interview you did without a lawyer. So you trusted me, but I felt you when we sat in our office. Thank you to Nolan's parents, Christine and Elma Wansley. I will continue to pray for you, and I'll be joining you later on in the week.
Now remember what that judge said. He ain't just some random voice. This a man who spent years on the bench, seen how these cases play out. So when he come out and speak on Nolan Wells like this, that carry weight. Let's get back into what he had to say.
All of the other things I've stated, you piece it together. Is there enough right now for arrest warrants for murder? That is a good question. I do know at this point there should have been search warrants signed by a judge. Evidence should have been presented to a judge by now. We are nearly 7 days after July the 4th, when he was first reported missing. There should have been evidence submitted by Jackson County law enforcement agents, the Sheriff's Department specifically, presented to a judge so that search warrants could be signed by the judge, and there needs to be, or should have been, someone questioning the young men, the three so-called friends, and others, and the social media accounts need to be searched by now, or at least a search warrant should have been issued for the appropriate entities to give the law enforcement access to the social media information. That should have been done by now. I'm not telling you what I imagine. I'm telling you what the process usually is when you're trying to do a thorough investigation. And based on what's revealed from a thorough investigation, I do believe once the evidence is secured, it's going to lead, and it should lead, to the arrest of one or more individuals for the murder of Nolan Wells. All of the actions are very suspicious, and right now they lead one to believe that one or more persons could have been involved with the death of Nolan Wells. Right now we have a lot of unsworn testimony, but once that is put into affidavit format and there is corroborating evidence through social media, computers, or otherwise, I believe that at that point there will be enough evidence for a judge to sign an arrest warrant. I think critical evidence that's missing right now are the results of the autopsy, the state's autopsy and the independent autopsy. That's going to be critical information. And that alone, or that in connection with what's already known, may be enough to lead to an arrest or arrest. We do know at this point, low-hanging fruit, there should be an investigation about the underage drinking, who provided the alcohol. Those individuals could be immediately arrested based on if there was any sworn testimony presented to a judge. I believe a judge could immediately sign an arrest warrant for those who provided the alcohol to underage individuals. There's a lot of people and a lot of potential crimes, some misdemeanors and felonies, that people could be held accountable for. Was there any boating while intoxicated? Who was the captain of the boat? And what did he allow on his boat? If there were any illegal drugs possessed by anyone, drugs are still illegal in Mississippi, at least they were when I was on the bench. Drug possession, drug use, selling of drugs, dealing drugs, trafficking drugs. We've heard testimony, or allegations at least. I don't think anything's been put in affidavit format yet, about rampant drug use among certain individuals. So there are a lot of things that's been alleged. Once put into the correct format, affidavit-wise, it could lead to arrests for several things, including misdemeanors and maybe even felonies. So there's a lot left to do. We are not rushing to judgment, but I just thought I would come on here and tell you that there definitely should be search warrants issued by now, and there could be arrest warrants for certain crimes issued by now. But for the ultimate crime of murder, it is probably wise to wait to see what the autopsy reveals, or both autopsies reveal, and then parcel that together with all the video footage, all the witness statements taken, any affidavits gathered, and then make a decision, get it all to a judge at that point, for a judge to decide whether or not to sign a warrant for the arrest of one or more individuals. It would be very interesting to see what the autopsy shows. There's also the potential for kidnapping. It needs to be looked at whether or not they can get to murder. Was there kidnapping? Was this young man taken somewhere against his will at any point? Was there abuse of a corpse even after he died? So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at from various law enforcement perspectives. Law enforcement has to do their job and get the information to a judge in the right format before a judge can act. Had I still been on the bench, if I wanted to act, I could not act unilaterally. I would have to wait till law enforcement brought me the evidence in the right format before I could sign an arrest warrant, before I could sign a search warrant. And so that's how the process works. That's how the process works. And so I am happy to be a retired judge. I'm always going to shoot it to you straight with no chaser. Straight with no chaser. I would tell you the God honest truth. I can tell you this one thing. I may have been born at night, but I was not born last night. And one thing about it, you cannot fool the informed. I've been on the inside. I know the process, and we will not sit quietly and allow this to be swept under the rug. I will call your hand. I will call your hand. You're not going to play these people for a fool. You are not going to play these people for a fool. We know the process, and we know what you should be doing. And by God, I plan to make sure you do it, or we're going to call you out each and every time. There is a process. What I do know is, had the roles been reversed, by now, there would likely have been already arrests made. It wouldn't have taken all 6 days, 7 days, whatever amount of days it's going to take. Had the roles been reversed, justice, the wheels of justice spin quickly. Somebody would have been arrested for something by now. But since the roles are what they are, we are expected to be patient, and they're going to cross every T and they're going to dot every I in the investigation before they make a move, because of the people that are potentially involved. And that's the way the criminal justice system works, unfortunately. If you have access to power or money, in some instances, if you're the right color or the right hue, you will get the benefit of the doubt. And regardless of all of that, based on what I've heard, not in the affidavits I've seen, if the affidavits come to support what I've heard, I do believe, especially with the autopsy, once that is in, and then if we look at the body to see if there were any bruises or anything else, it should lead to the arrest of one or more individuals for murder, for accessory to murder, for conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and a list of other possible things. But right now, I could say that based on that video evidence of him demanding his phone back, someone could immediately be arrested for theft, wrongful conversion of his property. And once you make that first arrest, you start putting pressure on people. It becomes very serious at that point. No one wants their loved ones sitting behind bars, even jail bars, definitely not prison bars. So it becomes very serious at that point. And there are persons of interest that should have been interviewed by now, should have been questioned, picked up, and taken to the station, even if they didn't voluntarily go. There are certain people that should be classified as suspects by now. They should not just be persons of interest. They should be actual suspects. I do not agree with the sheriff saying right now foul play is not suspected. He should have said right now it is too early to tell one way or the other if he was going to say anything and try to be fair and impartial. Because all of this suspicious stuff, the suspicion and the actions of the individuals themselves lead you to believe that something is awry. And the stories are not adding up. The stories are not adding up. So if you believed that he stayed with a young lady, why were you calling the Coast Guard at 11 p.m. at night on July the 4th? And why did the Coast Guard somehow forget that and then remember it? And it's just very strange. And why would you lawyer up before there is even a body found? If my best friend died by drowning accidentally, the last thing I'm going to be doing is hiring a lawyer. I'm going to be too busy grieving my friend's accidental death. And I would not, in my wildest imagination, ever think that anyone would suspect me of a crime. Accidents happen all of the time. All of the time. And one thing about it, if I had been there when he drowned, I would probably been so exhausted from trying to save him that I wouldn't have time to think about hiring a lawyer, or time for my parents to think about hiring a lawyer. And if I am recalling things correctly, I do believe that one of those young people's parents went out to the island. Now, this is a bunch of young folks. I believe one of the mothers got on Facebook and said she went to the island at some point. Why was she there? What was she doing? She was not in their age group. I don't know too many parents that go to a teenage gathering or young person's gathering. What was she doing? I'm curious to know. I'm not even on the bench anymore, but I'm very curious to know what she was out there doing and who she may have been coaching, or what she may have been an accessory to. It's very odd that she was out there, because I'm sure she was not on the guest list. When I tell you I'm tired, it's because I am. It's time for us to have the knowledge. I got my law degree in 2002. So you're looking at somebody that has nearly a quarter of a century of experience in the legal realm. I spent 6.5 years on the bench. I am not going to mislead you, because too many of us have gone along to get along for too long. I have to meet my makers face in peace. I have to look myself in the mirror. I'm not going to betray you. Enough is enough is enough. I know no one wants to see their loved one go to prison or be held accountable. But if the shoe fits, you might as well get ready to wear it. No one is above the law. And if you can't do your job because you're friends with certain people, you need to recuse yourself. Recuse yourself and let somebody that can do their job correctly do it. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about the process or anything I just said. There is a criminal justice process. And I know how things should go. And when they don't go as they should, you have to ask yourself why. Again, I'm Judge Carlos Moore. I've been coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been living here now nearly 3 years. But Mississippi is home. The Gulf Coast is home. I know several members of the Wells family and the Wansley family, and again, they have my deepest condolences for their loss. It's tragic. tragic folks that you trusted your loved one to spend time with. Left an island without having the decency to account for your son. That's sad. I can't imagine the level of pain. And I've heard some people say that the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division should come in and investigate, or the FBI, MBI, who actually has jurisdiction to do this. Those are good questions. We may need more assistance besides the local law enforcement to get down to the bottom of this. If there's anyone that's truly willing to live up to the oath they took, they swore as a law enforcement officer, as a judge, if you're willing to live up to that oath and be unbiased and do a true investigation and consider the facts fairly, please step up. And if you can't do the job fairly, please step aside. This is too serious. You have too many educated people watching this case now, and we're not going to let you get away with murder, potentially with no one being held accountable. We're not going to do it. Whoever did something untoward needs to be held accountable, needs to go before a jury of their peers, and need to let that jury of their peers decide their guilt or innocence. The standards for an arrest warrant is simple, probable cause to believe a crime has been committed. The judge has to have probable cause, more likely than not, that a crime has been committed for an arrest warrant to be signed. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's probable cause, more likely than not. That's a very low burden to meet, and the evidence needs to get to a judge pretty soon. We know that won't be the end all. Just because there will be an arrest at some point, I do believe it's still going to be a long process. The local judge, the municipal judge, as I was, will have to do the arraignment and decide whether or not the individual or individuals get bail and what that bail amount will be. If it's a capital offense, or if it's a first-degree murder charge or manslaughter charge, or whatever it may be, kidnapping, aggravated assault, that the judge will have to set bail or decide or deny it. Will the persons be flight risk? All that has to be taken into consideration. From there will be a preliminary hearing, likely, where the evidence will be presented to that local judge, who will get to decide whether or not to bind it over to a grand jury or dismiss the charge. Once it's bound over to a grand jury, it'll be up to the grand jury to decide what to actually indict the individuals for. And then once there is an indictment or indictments are secured, individuals will have to stand trial, or if they plead not guilty, they get to stand trial. Otherwise, if they plead guilty, it could go immediately to sentencing. You would expect, based on what I've seen so far, that there won't be any guilty pleas automatically, and this probably will go to trial. You have contradicting stories. You have Katie that's saying one thing. You have the young man that's saying another. I see Katie has not lawyered up, from what I have been told, and she's been speaking freely, and her family has been speaking freely. Whereas I understand that some others have decided not to speak to the press and have lawyered up. And people are entitled in this country. You are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. There's nothing wrong with lawyering up. In fact, if it was my family, I would advise my family to remain quiet too. That's what lawyers do. We advise them to remain quiet. They have a right to remain quiet. And a lot of times you remain quiet for good reason, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. But people also have a right to be suspicious of why individuals lawyered up so fast. Why are they not talking? This is serious. It's serious business. People's potential freedom are on the line, and somebody has lost their life. Someone has lost their life. At least the people that's alive still have a fighting chance. You never know what a jury in Mississippi will do. We do know that no one ever was held accountable for Emmett Till's murder, despite the evidence. the overwhelming evidence. No one was ever held accountable. I can only hope and pray that in 2026, 2027, should the facts be presented to a jury of the peers, that it'll be given reasonable consideration, and that if the facts are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, that the individuals that may soon be arrested and tried for the death, for their role in the death of Nolan Wells, will be held accountable. That's all we can hope and pray for, and we will have to live with whatever the jury's verdict is, because in this country, if you go through the entire process, we live with the verdict of the jury. It has to be a unanimous verdict, and they get to decide guilt or an acquittal. And if they cannot agree, it's a hung jury, and the prosecution gets to decide if they try the case again. They can continue to try it again until they get a unanimous decision one way or the other. So it's going to be a long road ahead. Keep the Wells and Wansley's family in your prayers. They have to deal with all of this in a very public light. They are not allowed to grieve privately because of the very public nature of this death. And so it's a lot to process. One day your life is going as normal, and the next day you are thrown in the limelight. But I applaud the parents for standing together and fighting for answers. And they have been very good. They are not accusing anybody of anything. They just simply want answers. And once those answers are given and properly investigated, they are hoping that the right thing is done. And that's my hope too. Whatever the evidence leads to, as long as there has been a thorough investigation, I'm willing to accept that. But I do not want anyone getting any favoritism. I want a complete, thorough investigation, and I'm glad another independent investigation is going along alongside the law enforcement investigation. Again, I had the privilege of serving the great people of Mississippi, because the people of Mississippi, for a large part, certain people I consider great in Mississippi. I used to call the state great. I no longer will refer to it as a great state of Mississippi because it still has a lot of growing to do. It's not a place that I feel comfortable living any longer and raising my family. And I would encourage any of my friends to move to Mississippi in its current configuration. It's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place with a deep-seated racism. And they are known to try to keep Black people in their place. So no matter what your socioeconomic status is as a Black person in Mississippi, they are known to try to keep you in your place. And one thing about me, I decided where my place was. No one else got to decide where that place was. And my place was equal with theirs. And in my eyes, I was always equal, never beneath. My parents raised me to believe you are no better than anyone and you are no worse than anyone. You are equal. I believe that, and I do believe that's how we all should be treated. Equal justice under the law. And all men are created equal, and we are endowed with unalienable rights. I believe that. And America will be forced to live up to his promise. It will be forced to live up to his promise. I could go on and on, but I have been here to express from my viewpoint the perch that I had as one who wore the robe in not one, but 2 jurisdictions in Mississippi, where I signed countless search warrants and arrest warrants. I know the process, and I'm happy to have enlightened you on tonight. Please share this with your friends. Let them hear it from the horse's mouth, because people will have you to believe that you're crazy based on your suspicions. A lot of your suspicions and what you're saying, you're dead on, you're dead right. You're hitting the nail on the head. Keep asking the questions, keep prodding. And if you ever want to know if you're on the right track, I'm just a chat or email.
At the end